Welcome back, folks, to the second build, of course, of pack number 7. That's Special Projects pack number 7 for those who are new to the channel. And this one, going on from the Corolla earlier on today, which I think will be one of the most popular, if not the most popular, out of the 10. This one might be the total opposite. I think it will be popular in terms of people checking it out, but it might be the most controversial in terms of how many people actually enjoy it, because this, for those who already know what Signature is of course my own fictional tuning company, if you will, within Gran Turismo, where I just decide to build something, like a project, and something which I could imagine having like a build of in real life, at least to some degree. And fun fact, this is actually the first one. This was the first Signature car I built, and it inspired me to do the rest of the series, which is why it's the most different to all of the others. As I've said before, the Signature cars are about being fun, first and foremost. This original one, though, not so much. This one is actually kind of the total opposite. This one is designed to be probably the most savage car I've done in any Special Projects build. It is a Suzuki Vision GT engine swapped, 11,000 RPM, full carbon, 750 horsepower, racing super soft tyres, basically Pagani Zonda R in a BMW M3 body. That was the impetus behind the concept. I thought, what if somebody decided to make something like an FXX Zonda R, but they had a BMW M3 to do it with? That is what this spawned from. And this car is not forgiving to drive, so consider yourself warned. Now, first of all, of course, I've got the wide body fitted. This is one of my own visual designs. And of course, I'll put up on screen that you can grab it by clicking the link down in the description. You do, as I said, want the wide body fitted. The aero stuff is fitted anyway when you fit the visual design. And of course, you will need the Suzuki engine swap. That goes without saying. As far as the parts, though, you want the stage 1 weight reduction. For the Club Sports section, we've got stage 2 weight, of course, the power restrictor and the ballast. For the semi-racing stuff, of course, the fully customized computer. I've gone for the high RPM turbo. You could always go for mid-range, but, you know, we're going all out here, so you may as well go for the high range. We've got fully customized diff, stage 3 weight. Perhaps, surprisingly, I have actually not increased the body rigidity. Might seem like something that you would do in a super hardcore, you know, Nordschleifer spec M3, but as you can see from the points, it doesn't really need it, and in practice, this thing is more than stiff enough, let's put it that way, but we'll get to that in a second. We've got the race silencer, which, if I recall correctly, I think is already fitted. We've got the drilled discs. Carbon ceramics would probably be more appropriate visually, so you could go for those if you want. The racing pads, of course, race suspension, clutch, transmission, and since we're going all out, I've gone for racing super softs, or softs as they call them in this game. So basically qualifying tyres, essentially. So maximum grip, ridiculously high point level. As you can see, 783 pp is pretty bonkers for an M3. If you want to go for others to use it in actual events, then of course go for it, but like I said, the whole idea of this car is something that has no rules. So it's just a ridiculous, balls-out, crazy track day monster. For the extreme stuff, probably ironically, I haven't fitted NOS to it. Doesn't really need it. And as far as the ultimate section, we've got the carbon prop shaft. So it's actually relatively simple in terms of the stuff that you need to fit. And that's one of the big advantages, of course, of fitting one of these race engines. You tend to get most of the stuff either unavailable or already fitted. So, as far as the tuning, as you can see, I have restricted the numbers a little bit because I like to have my numbers kind of more symmetrical. Maybe an OCD thing, who knows. But 750 horsepower on the dot, 1,100 kilos. So if you don't want to restrict it, technically you could run even higher numbers, but I just like the way those look. I think an 1,100 kilo, 750 horsepower M3, that just looks pretty cool, at least on paper. So we've got the racing softs fitted, the fully customized suspension, little bit of a different approach, as you can see. Some radical differences between the front and the rear here, as I have done a couple of times before. We've got 110mm on the front, so actually significantly higher than the back at 95. The reason for that is, of course, this is a very twitchy car. The M3, when you do any kind of tuning to it, it has kind of a weird centre of mass change through corners. It feels almost like it suddenly fishtails sometimes, so I wanted to overcome that. Raising the front goes a long way to help. We've got the anti-roll on 4 for the front, 1 for the rear, 35 for the compression on the dampers, 45 on the rebound, 3 for the frequency, so very high on that one. We've got 3 degrees of camber on the rear, so a heck of a lot, race car territory. 1.5 on the front though, so a lot less. And then for the tow, we've towed out 15 on the front and towed in 30, so a pretty hefty amount on the back as well, of course, for stability. As far as the diff, I tried a number of different settings and tweaking it here and there, especially between the suspension and the diff, to really hone in what I liked. Because like I said, I don't want this car to be forgiving. I wanted it to feel savage, and I wanted it to be something that you really have to focus to drive it well. So with that in mind, it is tremendously quick through corners, but I particularly like it with a 60, 20 and 20, as far as the diff goes. As far as the gearbox, probably a much closer ratio than you'd expect, 250 kilometers an hour, but they are quite stretched gears, even with that auto preset. So most of the time, even on the Nürburgring, you won't find yourself hitting the red line. It is long enough in terms of gearing. Plus it's more of a short course, almost like a time attack style approach that I've taken to its performance. We've got 43 kilos of ballast to bring us up to 1100. I've put that all the way to the back, which is perhaps surprising, a 48-52 split, very Maserati Quattroporte style. In fact, that has even more, that's a 53 back. Then we've got the 95% output on the ECU, just to round it off to 750 horses, full downforce front and rear, which is a surprise to no one. We've got, of course, the high RPM turbo and all of the other racing stuff fitted here. So that's it for the tune. Of course, you could mess around if you want, but any changes you make a huge difference in this car. It's a very, very responsive car to tuning on both ends, good and bad. So, let's now jump out to, of course, the Nordschleife, where I can show you what this can do. Now, like I said, this thing is a beast. It is designed to be a beast. And in my little synopsis that I wrote to remind myself of the key points of each car when I actually talk about them, I only wrote one word for this one. Savage, because that is what this car is. It's designed to be, and it is. It is tremendously fast. I'm talking like borderline Group 2 fast in terms of acceleration and overall performance. Through corners, you have to remember, as crazy as it is still technically a road car underneath, despite the fact that we've basically gutted out everything and turned it into a road-going race car. But like I said, this one demands focus. This car demands respect, and in terms of actually using it, I would say that there's one thing in particular that you need to be careful of, and there's one thing which I would give as a piece of advice to get the best out of the car. The thing to get the best out of it is because of the sheer power and because of the power delivery with that high RPM turbo in particular, you want to roll onto the throttle and allow the car to coast a little bit later than you might think. So you need to think of the car as a ballistic missile in a straight line. So don't try and power out of corners because it will kick loose even with super soft tyres. So when you're pointing in the direction you want to go, then unleash the beast. And as far as cornering, there's really only one type of corner that you need to watch out for, and there are a lot of them here on the Nürburgring, and that is long sweeping corners. That is the kind of corner where the car will suddenly flick its tail out a little bit, especially if it's over an undulating road. You will find that the car becomes a little unstable through those kind of corners because this is, like I said, time attack vibes. This car likes low, sharp, aggressive, throw it in, power out kind of corners. So especially toward the start and the end of the Nürburgring, those are the corners that this loves. The mid-range stuff, where you're up around 150, 160 mile an hour taking corners, that's where it gets a little bit more twitchy. So if you want a challenge, absolutely give the car a go. I think that those who do like this car will absolutely love it, and for some it might be a little bit too much. So let me know where you fall down in the comments if you do give it a try. Of course, check out the Corolla from earlier today, which is a lot easier to drive, and of course, stick around for the 8 more builds coming this week. But until next time, I'll see you then, and thanks for watching.